All right, we're going to go ahead. Thanks for joining. This is the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Adult Cardiac Surgery Database Quality Improvement Series webinar on decreasing vent time. This is an internal data review, and today is May 17th. On the phone with me, we have from STS, it's myself and Donna McDonald, the Vice President of Quality for STS, and Melinda Offer, our consultant. And we have special guests joining us from Pro Health, Jenny Boyce. Brian Bruiser was to join us. He's not quite on yet. Jesse Flemings and James Mangerson. I hope I said it correctly. They will be presenting on their site's data regarding reducing vent times, talking about their process, their data, and how they reduce their vent times and have been successful for quite a few years. So just a quick update for me, the harvest close is on Friday, May 19th. There was an issue with the uploader that lasted for about an hour around 11 o'clock today. That issue has been fixed. Harvest 2 is still set to close on Friday, so be sure to get your data, finish getting your data, and if you're having any last minute cases you need to submit. Okay, and now I'm going to hand it over to Jenny. Jenny, if you want to go ahead and take it. Thanks again for joining. I'm really looking forward to your presentation.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to be going through and just reviewing Pro Healthcare's isolated CABG ventilation data. And you can go to the next slide, Carol.
Yeah, just tell me when to go to the next slide.
Perfect.
Sorry. Thank you.
No problem. So today we're going to be looking at Waukesha Memorial's hospital process to monitor and achieve great outcomes for prolonged ventilation for our isolated CABG patients. We're hoping that sharing this information will assist with the STS goal of improving prolonged ventilation nationally for all isolated CABG patients. First, just a little information about our hospital and our CT surgery program. Waukesha Memorial is located in Wisconsin. We're about 20 miles west of Milwaukee. Our annual volume for the STS Adult Cardiac Data Registry is roughly 130 cases per year. In 2022, we performed 81 isolated CABG surgeries, and we have 4 cardiothoracic surgeons. And next, so we'll start by looking at how we monitor, review, and use our STS data. Communication and transparency is the key to our program's success. Our STS data is reported to the physicians and surgery team, hospital leadership, and the departments that care for our surgery patients, which will have a direct impact on our results. The team is educated on the STS dashboard metrics so that all have an understanding of what we collect, what causes a fallout, and how our results compare to the STS benchmarks. We also review quarterly our star ratings and our confidence intervals. We review overall and patient level fallout events, as well as positive and negative data trends. As soon as a month is entered into IQVIA, a summary report is emailed to the team. We work with the most current data to project ahead of the published reports. We meet quarterly as a team to review our STS isolated CABG data. Meeting participants include the CT surgeons and the surgery team, hospital and physician leadership, and the manager of quality outcomes. I will put together an overview of our recent STS data to include the results of the newly published report and also an overview of the star ratings. I highlight STS data strengths and also focus on opportunities needing review or attention. The surgery team will then focus efforts on process improvement activities for those identified opportunities. This is a slide we use for our quarterly data review, and I typically show this as 3 different slides to show our past, current, and next report 3-year composite star rating results. The total for the results will be shown in red for any metric that is worse than the current STS benchmark. This also allows a visual for monitoring the number of prolonged ventilation events that calculate into our star rating and assists with monitoring all of our major morbidity and op mortality fallouts. Prolonged intubation is also one of the metrics that we closely monitor on our hospital's isolated CABG dashboard. The dashboard shows quarterly results for the last 2 years, and the last 4 rolling quarters are calculated. The dashboard is distributed to the surgery team, hospital leadership, and to the ICU and heart care unit managers. I will update the dashboard goals yearly, setting only a target value for all of the major morbidity categories using the current STS benchmark. The dashboard results are colored green if better than or equal to the STS benchmark, and red if worse than STS. I have a fallout tracking sheet with the information on the individual patient events that cause a fallout. The dashboard assists with being able to stay ahead of the published STS reports to see the start of negative data trends. We review quarterly a graph showing the individual isolated CABG patient extubation times for a rolling year. A black horizontal line placed at the 6-hour mark helps us to visualize the patients that we are extubating in under 6 hours. The red horizontal line also provides a visual for the patients that are extubated close to or over the 24-hour mark. If we start to see negative trends, further investigation can be completed. I have also in the past shown the extubation times with an additional bar graph for each patient showing age or BMI to see how these can also impact the extubation times. This can assist with knowing if extra consideration needs to be made for certain patient populations. Now I would like to introduce James Mangerson, who again is a physician assistant at Waukesha Memorial, and James will review our extubation protocol.
Everybody. So again, James Mangerson, physician assistant with the cardiothoracic surgery team. And before I get too deep in the weeds with this extubation protocol, I kind of want to lay the groundwork of how we got to this point and even developing this protocol. So over a period of several years leading up to spring of 2018, when we finalized this process, we had been looking at a lot of different opportunities to improve our data. And as you can imagine, with our smaller program, having the highest quality data is absolutely critical to our success, especially in a very competitive market in southeastern Wisconsin. We've always felt, and every program feels this way, of course, but we've always felt that having absolutely highest level outcomes is really critical to the entire service line's success. So that's really what pushed on this at first. And as you've heard, Jenny really is meticulous with how she reviews our data and presents it up to us. So we always had a very real-time understanding of how we were doing. So really through the 2015 through 2018 time period, our program was evolving quite a bit with staff. We had our surgeons and also our advanced practice providers. And we were a younger team of APPs at the time. I was the veteran most APP on the team with about, at that point would have been 4 years of experience. And so there was a lot of moving parts and things we were trying to continue to develop. So we inherited some order sets when our group started here that had an extubation protocol within it. And as we got deeper into our outcomes and really felt like ventilation times needed to be a target for improvement, our first step was identifying ways in which we could improve upon the existing extubation protocol. It was fairly ambiguous. It did not have a lot of real quantitative data related to it like you see in our current protocol. It just didn't really get us where we wanted to go. And then we also realized that with a variable ICU staff, and I mean variable not necessarily with regards to quality, but really just our comfort level with different RTs and nursing, as well as, are we training new nurses or RTs? We also felt that a protocol is necessary that could really hopefully mitigate variability in understanding our patients and really what our quality goals are. So as we got deeper into this, we decided to develop an early version of this protocol, and then we vetted it through with our critical care providers and our surgeons, of course, and we all kind of came to the table with the nursing staff and the RTs to do this in a collaborative way. So all parties really did contribute to developing this. Back to the staffing in our ICU, up until about 2 years ago, not even, probably 18 months ago, the APP team in CT surgery was taking the first call across the board, which included all critical care calls overnight. So we were managing the ventilator and doing everything that comes with managing a post-op open heart in the ICU. And in the last 18 months, our organization has really cultivated a strong ICU presence with 24/7 critical care providers at the bedside. So that has really helped us. In addition to this protocol, it's really helped our team also just with getting through the night and coming to work the next day. So the majority of the process and the data that you see leading up to this point was just with our surgical team managing things without critical care in-house. So the process to get to this point with the protocol, we did a 6-week pilot with this protocol as like a hard copy that was sitting in each room when we'd have an open heart patient. We gave it 6 weeks. We felt like that was enough time if we were doing, maybe 3 CABGs a week, roughly, something along those lines. That gave the nursing staff and RT staff and kind of everybody that would have a touch on these situations to develop some feedback, some suggestions on how to improve it, what was maybe unnecessary, et cetera. And so after 6 weeks, we sat down with each group and really worked to try and refine things based on their feedback. So this is not just us telling everybody what to do. This was a very collaborative process. Once we came to this final agreement on how this should look and how operationally it could be executed, I took it to our medical executive committee and presented it up. So that's led by our chief medical officer and a lot of different providers and teams across the medical group, and as well different settings and independent groups too. And it was approved at that point. So how we did it then was we embedded this into our Epic order set by a hyperlink that would go out to our SharePoint site. So really it's instead of a big long, detailed order that the nurses have to read through, they just click on a hyperlink that takes them straight out to this protocol. Now, that said, these hard copies are floating all over the ICU. Even to this day, we still see this extubation protocol sitting on the computer on wheels there. So going through the protocol itself, it starts with really, this is about communication. And so when we get a patient back to the unit, we immediately touch base now with the critical care team. But when we started this with the nursing and RT staff, whether or not the surgical team felt the patient was suitable to be weaned kind of along a normal pathway. So for us, we really felt it was important to have the patient sit for 2 hours before starting to wean, just with all the different variables that can come into that first chunk of time in the ICU with regards to hemodynamics and chest tube output. So if the patient was approved on this top arm here by the surgical team to be weaned, once they hit that 2-hour mark, then the nurse can just start to tick down this checklist here. So chest tube output less than 150 for 2 hours, no blood products in, a fairly quick and dirty neurological exam that we really felt was extensive enough to get the patient off the ventilator. Hemodynamics, some of you may be saying, well, geez, somebody on 3 vasoactive infusions, that might be concerning. We chose less than or equal to 3. because we do have some surgeons that, like the ongoing nitroglycerin infusion for mammary spasm, things like that. So, and it's worked well for us. Then some relatively basic ventilator numbers, essentially on a physiologic setting with regards to oxygenation and positive pressure, and then just some basics on the blood gas. So once they can rattle through this, and it's meant to be fairly quick, if the nurse and the RT both agree that they get to this point and they pass, then they'll put them straight onto a spontaneous breathing trial. They sit on the breathing trial for 30 minutes unless they call a provider and the provider just says, go ahead and extubate. But they would sit for 30 minutes, then get an ABG, and then go through a secondary checklist. And it's really just re-verifying everything from that first evaluation. If they pass that breathing trial, then they go ahead and extubate. One thing I think we really liked right off the bat, and it was the RTs giving us that input, was that they can automatically go ahead and put people on CPAP if their assessment said so. If the patient was a sleep apnea patient at home with CPAP, it wasn't really something that had to be litigated with a provider team. They had some autonomy there, and we felt that was very useful. The challenge here would come now after that first run down the checklist for initial assessment. If they failed that, any of those marks, and really it was, we said, if you're concerned about anything, put them back on the vent. We would rather have somebody sit on a ventilator for longer than be reintubated. And so if they fail it, they kick back over, and it was a 30-minute reevaluation to see if the patient met those criteria before, again, trying a breathing trial. You can see here, this is still without critical care at the bedside 24/7, so they would notify a provider from our team. And it was up to the provider to decide whether or not they should stop trying, get an intensivist on board at the time, or kind of what to do next. If they passed that breathing trial, if they went to a breathing trial and then failed it, then they would circle back onto the previous ventilator settings and then reach out for further guidance. So we really did feel like this was a good transition to a more structured process where variability and provider experience, both on the surgical team, but also experience with the nursing and RT staff, this really gave a lot of comfort and structure and an overall ability to know exactly what's happening in the room without necessarily being at the bedside, and that we can trust the process. So this is still what we use now. We are still very happy with it, and it's not been through any new iterations since we initially launched it in 2018.
Impressive. Next slide. Can I ask a question real quick?
Of course.
This the less than or equal to 3 vasoactive infusions.
Mm-hmm.
How common is it that you have patients who have 3 continuous drips going when you're extubating?
Oh, not real common. I think that number is a little high. Again, we have surgeons of various generations, some that like infusions that are to remain on at 2 mics per minute for various reasons. Others that like nitroglycerin for graft spasm. And we kind of said, okay, well, we don't really want those to count. If we have a patient that's on just a whiff of dobutamine and therefore we need to start a little Levophed, if they're on 3 high dose inotropes and pressors, that's something that's probably going to be communicated at the time of arrival, like, hey, we're not going to go extubating this patient until we're down to, this dose on this and we're off that. So
Okay.
obviously 3 is a big number, mostly because we wanted to account for those every case infusions that are more pragmatic for the surgeons.
Yeah, understood. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll go to the next slide.
Now we will take a look at our STS results. The protocol that James shared is the reason for our amazing outcomes. For 2022, our initial ventilation hours mean was 5.54 hours, which is roughly half of the current STS benchmark of 10.98 hours. For 2022, we had 69.13% of patients extubated in less than 6 hours, and that's about 7.5% better than the current STS benchmark. With no reintubations for 2022, our total ventilation hours, the mean was 5.54 hours, which is 9.76 hours below the current STS benchmark of 15.3. Our last prolonged isolated CAB intubation was in Q1 of 2021. So through Q1 of this year, we have had 2 rolling years with no prolonged intubation patients. And then in looking at our risk-adjusted prolonged ventilation results for the last 6 years using the IQVIA longitudinal dashboard, our risk predicted results are shown by the red line, and all are higher than our actual results that are shown here in blue. For 2022, when we had 0% prolonged intubation, the STS risk model predicted we would be closer to 5% given our patient population. And next.
I accidentally answered a phone call and I didn't mean to do that. Hold
That's
on
fine.
1 second. Okay, sorry. That Teams gets me every time. Okay, I'm so sorry, Jenny.
No problem.
I'm so sorry.
Our O to E ratios using the IQVIA longitudinal dashboard show over the last 6 years, all of our observed results were better than expected given our patient mix because of their risk factors. 3 out of our last 6 years, we had an O to E ratio of 0.26 or less, which is remarkable for the team. And next, please. And this last report is also taken from the IQVIA longitudinal dashboard and is showing our observed and expected results for prolonged ventilation. Again, for the last 6 years, we have had observed results, which are shown by the blue line, all of which were below the expected results for this time period. And that was all I had.
So very impressive.
Thank you.
Congratulations on instituting that. I think the information is great. The way that you're inclusive at your site with all of the departments and all of the people who have their hands on the patients, and everybody's looking at the patient right when they get out of the OR. It's wonderful. And clearly the audio, those that are on the webinar really liked it. So we can go ahead and do questions. If I only see 3 right now. Oh, what is the N of the data? Let's start with that one. That's a good question. I think you talked about your counts.
Right. For
Here,
2022, we had 81 isolated CABG surgeries, and that's been pretty typical for the last, I would say, the 6 years of the data that you're seeing. It's give or take maybe 5 to 10 patients, but that's typically what our rolling years isolated CABG surgeries have been.
Great, thank you.
And I think that's all the more reason we've obsessed about outcomes, is knowing that denominator being small. A single fallout is really painful to look at.
Yeah, it could be devastating to your program.
Exactly.
With a small N. So, and it's also important to note that this protocol. It's you can implement it at a smaller community-based hospital, but it can certainly be upsized to work at larger hospitals as well. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We just include everybody who's touching the patients and give people specific jobs and communicate. I think communication was the biggest thing that was brought up at the beginning of it. Would it be possible to get a copy of your fallout tracking sheet that you share?
Sure. Really, what I put together on my Excel list is just basically an Excel list, and I have op mortality and then the 5 major morbidity categories. And then I just have by quarter, if we have patients that have a fallout. A couple other things that we also keep track of on our dashboard. We track our readmissions and we track our length of stay. We also look at our new onset AFib rates for the patient. So I basically just did an Excel spreadsheet. I have all of those data metrics, and then by quarter, if we have a fallout in the major morbidity or op mortality and IMA usage, I will put that on the Excel sheet. And then when we get a national report or when the quarterly dashboard goes out, the fallout tracking sheet is sent to the surgery leads and some of the identified managers, just being able to look at the published reports in the dashboard and then be able to reflect on the patient events that caused a fallout.
Wonderful, thank you. And then also, could they get a copy of your post-op extubation protocol? And if you wanted to send those to me in PDF, I can
Sure.
put them on the back of the slide deck
Perfect.
when I post the PDF slides, and then that way everybody who pulls it down would have it. And I wanted to say also regarding the slide deck, because there's another question, if the slide deck would be available after the webinar today. Our website went under a reconstruction, and it was released last week. When they were practicing building the website, it was down where we couldn't upload anything new, any new material, any webinar recordings or the PDF slides for a few weeks. The webinar recordings will be housed on the STS YouTube channel, and I'll show you that when we get towards the end of the webinar. I don't want to take up everybody's time who's joined us as guests today to show you that right now, but I will. The PDF slides will be populated on the webinar page. Right now, it looks like we're only going to be able to keep up one set of the slide deck. And they'll replace it after each webinar. So when the next webinar comes, the current slide deck that's available will go away. But I'll work and see if we can make those slide decks available for longer, because I know some folks don't have time to watch these webinars and pull down the slide decks. But if you please look for the slide deck starting on Monday and make sure you pull it down before our next webinar, just to make sure you don't miss out on it. Okay, could you please define what benchmark means? Is this based on the latest harvest data?
Correct.
Okay. The 24/7 critical care coverage you mentioned, is that provided by APPs or cardiac intensivists?
So we have a group of APPs that's in-house overnight with physician backup.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
You mentioned age and BMI. At what point do you look at those?
You know, that was something that we had done way early. I think even before the intubation protocol was put together. And when you kind of flipped the extubation times and you arranged it by age lowest to highest, you could definitely see that there was a curve, that as age went up, that the extubation time went up as well. And we did see the similar curve when we put the extubation times along with the BMI data. It was a pretty direct curve. And I think at that time, and this was many years ago, that there had been the discussion for patients that do have sleep apnea, being sure that any type of assistive devices for that was ready at the bedside to assist with the extubation.
And can I just add to that? And Jenny's absolutely right. I think we can't miss the opportunity to also, discuss importance of optimization prior to surgery. We've always really pushed hard in collaborating with our colleagues in cardiology and nephrology to, if a patient's in heart failure, but, we can get them optimized, things like that, or somebody with a COPD exacerbation at the time of their MI. And we really push to have these people in perfect condition as close to as we can before taking them to the operating room. So I think we've really tried to push on a culture where the surgical team decides when it's time, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with, that general culture of the surgical team calling the shots. But I think that can't be understated, especially in a program our size and in this population, that they need to be ready to go. Because even that, the best laid plans with a protocol can be foiled with somebody that's just not ready for surgery yet.
Not that you guys were in the chest or anything for that patient calling the shots, but yeah. That makes sense. Okay, I'm showing the last slide again. So this is the slide that was the last in the presentations prior to the question slides. And then Hannah says, thanks for sharing this. We use Epic. What is your order set titled? I would like to find it in the community library.
I'm not sure if it's searchable in the community library because it links out to a third site in our internal SharePoint site. So it's a hyperlink. So I don't know if that would be something that would be searchable in the community database.
Okay, thank you. What is your percent of extubated in the OR?
0%. We don't do that. We made a decision early on that that provided little value, especially if we can get people off the vent within a few hours. That really is not a direction we've decided to go.
Oops, I missed. I was going to pull up your the extubation protocol.
Mm-hmm.
If I could find it here.
Additionally, we used to do beating heart off pump surgery. We got away from that for a lot of different reasons that we don't necessarily need to get into on this discussion, but all of our CABGs are done fully arrested.
Wonderful. And let me see. I don't know what I thought it. I must have missed it. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. There it is. Okay. Do you utilize any surgery selection criteria or have a risk score cutoff for cases?
That's a great question. Everybody gets an STS risk score calculated prior. We try not to be too rigid with that number. Again, we're a smaller organization, and so we have a very experienced team of surgeons, and we kind of know what is and is not appropriate to be done here. We don't have an ECMO program. We can get somebody onto ECMO and then shipped out to a tertiary center. But we kind of look at it through that lens of, let's not be good at what we do. Let's be excellent at what we do and understanding what is an appropriate patient for our organization. So we look at it more in that kind of more visceral approach to it. We don't have hard and fast cutoff numbers necessarily there.
Great, thank you. Do you use a frailty assessment for optimized conditioning pre-op?
That's another great question. We started doing TAVRs here in 2015, and anytime, and that brought in the frailty approach into our clinical practice pretty heavily. And so we don't necessarily apply frailty testing and assessment to every open heart, but if we're ever concerned of somebody being kind of on the cusp of, are they going to get through this from a rehab perspective, we will go ahead and do frailty testing on them. And it's a 4-point test that we've done with the TAVR side of things.
Yeah, I know we do the KCCQ and the TAVR in the TVT world, and I think there's other frailty assessments that are done in the cath PCI world. But we don't have a standardized frailty assessment for adult cardiac surgery patients right now. It is something that we have a working group that is actively looking into this and coming up with different plans on doing this for all adult cardiac surgery patients. It's great to hear that you're doing it on those patients that you think would benefit from it. Thank you. Could you share? Yeah, Jenny, is it okay if I share your contact information if folks reach out to me
Yes,
looking to get in
absolutely.
contact with you? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem.
Is there a committee review for each case by a team or chief CT surgeon prior to surgery to ensure optimization, or surgeon cardiologist discretion only?
For the surgical patients, we don't have necessarily in every case committee. We do have a monthly complex case review where we sit down with the cardiology team and just go through complicated cath films or echoes. And it's kind of a more academic side of things. On the outpatient side, you know, each discipline will bring cases that it can turn into a decision-making meeting. And oftentimes that's the direction it goes. All physicians and APPs are invited to that. Our cath lab staff comes to that. So again, it's not in every patient, it's the complex patients. On the inpatient side, especially where we're concerned about optimization and, you know, complex ill patients, it's basically an everyday discussion, and we take it case by case. In general, our surgeons are all on the same page. If we're going to turn somebody down for an operation, we do have kind of an unwritten rule that this is not a unilateral decision necessarily, that the patient needs to be assessed by multiple surgeons and agree that surgery is not the right approach to the patient's disease.
That's great to hear. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for that information. And I just put up the isolated yearly volumes for hospital. Do you use reversal agents at all? I guess that means in order to extubate the patient.
We let the paralytics wear off. If that's the question, we just let it wear
That's
off.
a question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't reverse.
Okay.
So I guess that means we also have excellent anesthesiologists.
That's probably you probably
Which is true.
really, yeah, you probably really do have some
Yeah.
good anesthesiologists up there. And you're up there because we're in Chicago, so you're
Right.
up there. What comorbidities pre-op status contributes most to challenging post-op? I'm sorry. What comorbidities pre-op status contribute most to challenging post-op extubations?
You know, I think clinically the hardest would be acute heart failure. You know, somebody coming in with a bad MI or bad valvular disease at the same time, that would be a fallout, I guess, for this population. But yeah, I would say heart failure is the biggest challenge. Secondary to that, renal function, I think, is a big one. And less tangibly, significant frailty, I think, really does make it hard on somebody that just went through maybe a long pump run. And now we're trying to get an old, frail patient off the ventilator in short order can be challenging. I would heart failure, acute kidney injury, or renal disease, and frailty.
Thank you so much. And that's all helpful, very, very helpful information. So it doesn't look like we have any additional questions for you all right now. You know, likely they'll one or two will come in just a few minutes. Usually that's how it works if people are thinking. So I'm just going to move on to the next topic. And if you have any other questions, please submit them. And please don't hang up, Jenny and James.
We're here.
Yep,
Okay,
I'll stay
and
on.
Jesse. All right, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was Hank the Tank. There he is, Hankster. All right. So many of you probably are not aware, but Donna McDonald is retiring next week, is her last week here with us at STS, and she's retiring. She's successfully completed her nursing career, starting at Little Company of Mary at a South Side hospital in Chicago in the south suburbs, working locally at community hospitals, Michael Reese and Hinsdale Hospital, pediatric and adult cardiac surgery. And she came to STS and has led the quality department. I can't even explain to you how much she has done for the quality of cardiac surgery patients. A true leader, a true mentor, a true friend. And I'm so excited for her to move on to this next journey where she gets to spend it with her family and her beautiful granddaughter, Violet. But I just want to let you all know that Donna is retiring. So very happy for her, going to miss her. I have tears in my eyes all day long. And we are really going to miss her. So I didn't know if anybody wanted to put any, let me open the chat box up for you. If anybody had any comments for Donna, she has been with STS for 14 years. I've learned so much from her. She's just really helped me grow professionally and personally. So I'm grateful for Donna. And I put this next part in very big letters because she is retiring. So I wanted to make sure she could see that. Okay. And Donna, did you have anything any last remarks for our wonderful data managers?
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Boy, it's been a journey. When I first got here, I was in charge of all 3 databases, which was a lot. And since then, we've added Intermax and PDMax and anesthesia and international participants, and it's just really grown. But the cornerstone, the foundation, the people who make it great are all of you. And it's the likes of Melinda and Dorothy Latham and Patty Toyer and people who really taught me that what you do is an art. It's not just, it seems data manager to me doesn't even begin to capture what you all do. And I'm thrilled to see this quality initiative, because as hospitals look for ways to cut costs and figure out what's necessary and what's not when they're looking at their budget, they're constantly saying, well, can't we just download things from the EHR? And do we really need someone to look at it? And we all know that putting the data in, making sure when the data comes out analyzed on the other side, that it truly reflects your performance and is accurate. But the next horizon is what you're doing right here, right now. And congratulations to James and Jennifer and everyone else who's actually using the data in the hospital, because that's where you can prove to your administration that you're invaluable to them. You are saving them money. You are saving patients pain and time and discomfort by extubating early and reducing infections and blood utilization and getting up and moving and getting them out. It's what you do is above and beyond. We might have to come up with a better term than data manager, Carol. Just
I like data extraordinaire, but I do have a few terms that I do have a few terms that I have in mind.
But
I
quality,
think quality professional, data professional.
You're driving the future and using the data. And I just want to thank you so much for all that you've taught me. And I just know you'll continue to do wonderful things. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. Thank you so much, Donna. Oh, we're gonna miss you.
Congratulations, Donna.
Very much. Congrats, Donna.
Yeah. So I hope you could see that though, right?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And from one nurse, speaking for many nurses who are muted right now, thank you for caring so much about a profession that has an impact on so many people's lives, and always putting patients first. So thanks, Donna.
Thank you.
Okay. Important dates for the STS. May 17th, that's today. May 19th is harvest close. May 25th is our next quality improvement series. I'm sure I'm gonna miss Donna, sorry.
We all are.
I'm such a sap. Okay, June 7th is our next monthly webinar. We will be presenting, I think, Melinda, you have risk model education we'll be talking about on that day. And
you're not the only sap. I'm crying too.
Oh, sorry.
Emily and I are crying over here too. So.
And then June 21st is our the quality improvement webinar for June. And we have John Hopkins will be coming back and talking more about their internal dashboards and the development on their internal dashboards. And we have a few other very great presenters lined up for these upcoming quality improvement webinars. So I think, let's see, Donna, of course, lots of comments on, congratulations, enjoy your life. Oh, here's a term, quality excellence coordinator. I think I like that. And
I
yeah,
like that.
yeah, that's a good one. We might call you, we might have to loop in Donna's name somehow into the title just to reflect her impact on us. Any info on AQO, so that will be virtual this year. And we'll talk more about that on the monthly webinar. And Sherry, I'm not going to be able to take, unless I think I got a few more minutes. I guess we could take your question, Sherry. I just didn't want to focus off of the topic. STS Coronary Conference is June 3rd through the 4th in Miami, Florida. If you have the opportunity to travel those days or you're in that area, I would highly recommend checking out this conference. The agenda is fantastic if you want to learn more about coronaries and various bypass surgeries. Visit sts.org/coronary CONF to register. And here's my contact information if you need anything. STSDB_helpdesk@sts.org for IQVIA database platform issues, and STSDB@sts.org for database operational questions, billing, contracts, contacts, etc. And I'm going to tell our folks thank you for joining, and thank you so much to Jenny, James, Jesse, and I think Brian had to hang up, but thank you so much for presenting on the data from your hospital. Super impressive. Great to see the improvement that you're doing for our patients that we all care so much about, and helping your surgeons and hospitals be good stewards of the resources that they have responsibility over. So I just want to say thank you all so much for joining. I'm going to take Sherry's question. It's related to AFib. And yeah, I guess we could do a quick walkthrough. If anybody wants to stay on, we could do a quick walkthrough of the STS website.
Well, thank you very much for having us, Carol. We really appreciate the opportunity to share our data. So thank you and everyone else for joining and for your excellent questions. And a special thank you to our team for the presentation.
Great, thank you, Jesse. So
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Impressive.
Yep.
And Jenny, please consider, I don't know if you've already done this, but please consider submitting an abstract to AQO, because I think this data is well worth sharing. Your process is well worth sharing on that level at our national data managers annual meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to put you in contact with Emily.
Thank you.
Okay. So thanks again. And I'm going to, so Sherry's question, I'll probably refer to Melinda. The question is the new AFib for patients without a history of AF, or the ones that may have a history of AF, but not AF or on OR entry?
I assume she's asking about reporting, and I know we've gone back and forth about
All
that.
right. So let's, before we get to Sherry's question, let's do because we're going to have to go here anyway. So let's go. And I made a turkey this weekend in the air fryer and 2 chickens, and they were delicious. That's why those recipes, I don't know why, but whenever I pull something up from home, it comes up on here. And I don't know why. It must be because I'm logged into Google. But I promise I wasn't looking up recipes at work. Okay, sts.org. This is our new fancy website that our marketing team has done a fantastic job building. Very streamlined, quite easy to follow, lots of places to get to the information you're looking for. The first thing you'll notice is the tabs at top. Research and data has its own section. The data manager, things that you'll be interested in are in this first column here. STS National Database for data managers and ACC TVT registry resources. That's one way. The other way is scrolling down. We have little icons here for the data manager, so you could click on that as well. And more information here about upcoming meetings. We have data research. So if you were scrolling and somehow missed the data manager tab, you can click on it from here. And it's all going to take you to the same spot. Resources. You have your risk calculator. You can also get to this from the data manager section. On some of our podcasts, if you haven't had a chance to listen to any of these same surgeon different lights, they're actually very fascinating. You learn a lot about the different surgeons in STS and some pretty interesting stories. So quite a bit of information on this first, just the landing page. So I'm just going to click on the little data manager button there, and you pop up. It comes up with these very nice tabs. It does not look the same way, although they do get you to the same spot. So if I were to go up here and click on for data managers, it looks a little bit different. There is no real difference in the information. It just looks like it's different. So resources for data managers, that was that same page we were just at. I think my suggestion would be just to get in there and click around and see what you find, because the more I click and show you things, it's probably just going to get confusing. You're going to see me clicking away and pages opening up, but sometimes when you do it yourself, you get a better experience and remember how you got to certain places better. But okay, so we're here. I'll just use these tabs at the top because I guess I'm a tab person. Research and data for data managers. It opens up to this page, resources for data manager. This access the database. This will take you to the IQVIA platform. I'm talking with marketing to see if we maybe can label it a little bit different, just so you know that will take you to the reporting platform. And then you scroll down, you'll see some more information. We have information on the data manager mentorship program, regional groups, database news. You also have tabs here that will directly take you to the location on the specific page. FAQs are under this table of contents, clinical question request form. It's also on this, if you just scroll down, it's right under here, submit a request. One thing I do want to mention that I still have been seeing is that folks are entering things other than numbers and letters into the sequence box. In the sequence number box, please only enter letters and numbers. I would only enter the sequence number. I wouldn't put commas. I wouldn't put anything else. If you're entering more than one sequence number, 675 and 685, just type 675 space 685. No commas or anything, because it gets rejected. And then it's annoying when you keep on submitting the same thing and it keeps on getting rejected. And then Melinda and I get emails saying that your thing was rejected and how do you get it in? So just please, numbers and letters only, no special characters, no punctuation, just numbers and letters only. So that, whoops. So that's that. Contact and support, and then your forms, database participant role description, database participant and platform roles, and then the participant contact form or PCF. This is where you add or remove people from your PID. So if you wanted to add a new data abstractor, primary contact, secondary backup data manager, this is where you would do it, or a new surgeon, or remove a surgeon. Schedule A forms are for surgeons. Schedule B forms are for anesthesiologists. They have to fill these out if you're adding new ones. And audit information, mortality, uploader instructions, different videos. And then it gets down into the specific databases. The STS database YouTube channel, the how-to videos. I guess we have how-to videos posted on here, but what also is posted on the YouTube channel will be the webinar. So we'll get there in just 1 second. Actually, 2 seconds. Adult cardiac surgery database. You have to log in. The access data collection resources. This is where you're going to find the training manuals, and data specifications, software specifications. So that's that. And then the webinars are here. This is today's webinar, join the webinar. And I think we'll be able to post the PDF slides here in some fashion. I was told that we're only able to post the last webinar's PDF slides. So they'll be posted here when this webinar happens on May 25th. These slides will be taken down. So if you, my suggestion, and I'll probably remind folks when we start this May 25th webinar to please go on and pull down any slides you wanted from May 17th. Because we will have things in there like that full protocol from the extubation protocol and other information that you may want to have available to print out PDF. So I'll remind people of that, but also maybe write yourself a note that you need to go down and pull down those slides if you are somebody who likes to have those slides in handy. Then this view past ACSD webinar, this is where all the recordings are housed. This is takes you right over to the dedicated STS National Database YouTube channel. Specifically, the ACSD live webinars are posted here. And if you do watch them here, you could always give me a thumbs up because I check to see if people liked them or not. And then general thoracic, congenital, and intermax PDmax are also here on this page. Okay, so then
I was going to say there's quite a bit of people wanting to know exactly where the training manual is. So if you could just click into that link and show them exactly where that is.
Sure. So it works the same way as the previous website where when you clicked on that access data collection resources, you're going to be taken to the login page. And I may have logged in today. Oh, I didn't. So you just have to log in with your information here. And it will take you to the adult cardiac page. Table of contents. You have all the databases here. So it doesn't look like you have to click back out of here. When you click the version, it's the same, set up the same way. Training manual, FAQs, the various data collection forms, surgeon worksheets, data specs, and all of the related information here. And same thing for general thoracic and congenital.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For the IQVIA people, we will not be having IQVIA on the webinar to answer questions any longer. If you have a question for IQVIA, you'll need to submit it to the STSDB_helpdesk@sts.org. I'll link to the ACSD webinars to your Outlook calendar would be useful on the new website. I thought, and I guess, did we used to have that, Dustin? Was there a link to include it on your calendar? And I'll mention this because it's happened a few times where we had to change the webinars and those calendar links stay on your calendars. If there is a change in schedule, I always try to hop on to make sure if anybody who joins that they're aware that the webinar was canceled, and of course apologize because you changed your schedule. But could you just let me know if that was something that we had before, and I can work with our marketing team to see if it's something we can bring back. Harvest question, since the new harvest is May 19th, is not star rated, what is the consequence of having 2% missing for 30-day mortality status? You would still be excluded from analysis and wouldn't receive your risk adjusted outcomes, I believe. And okay, and now we're going to go to Sherry's question finally, because she's been patiently waiting for 40 minutes or something. 32 minutes. Sorry, Sherry. Okay, so on this page, we have access to the database. This will take us to the IQVIA platform. I have not signed in yet from this computer, so I'll have to go into my email. And oops. Yeah, let me pull over the code. I'm embarrassed to show you what my email looks like because you'll all think that I'm a
Oh, stop.
I'm a slacker. Hold on. 067457.
So many emails come in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're drowning.
It's
I
like
was
not
gonna
letting people.
say,
It's
I was
not, that's
gonna-
not bad.
I was gonna say, if it's clinical questions, guys, send them to the FAQ mailbox, because as you can see, Carol's drowning in her emails, so. If I can't answer them, I'll get you over to Carol, but let's help her out a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, where am I at? So we're going to Sherry's question. Hold on. And her question is, oh, sorry, go ahead, Leanne.
And I was going to just remind everyone, the chat box is still open. If you have questions, put those in the Q&A, because I don't think it's easier to answer all the questions via the Q&A and not have to check both that and the chat. So just put your questions in the Q&A and not the chat.
Yeah,
Sorry
thank
about
you.
that.
That's okay. Okay. Is the new AFib for patients without a history of AFib, or the ones that have a history of AFib, but we're not an AFib at the time of OR entry? So let's pull it up. I think it's under the benchmark section, Melinda.
I think so. I'm sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button.
That's okay. Let's pull it up and see. So, Shelley, I saw your question in the chat box. They do currently have the previous data collection forms from version 2.81 and older up there, available to be pulled down. I suggest if you need those, if anybody needs those, to please pull them down, because I don't know how long we're going to be able to keep those up there for everybody to access. We want to make sure that you have the information you need. So we're probably going to ask sites to start storing those locally on a shared drive internally at your own sites, to be shared if you need those for different programs that you may be using those in. Just saying to just pull them down so that we can, just in case that does happen, that we're prepared for that. Okay, let me pull up here. I think it's in the is it morbidity, mortality? Maybe, right? Because it's
I think it's just post-op, isn't it?
I don't know. I think post-op was like the vent times and
I'm
things.
not in this enough to, be an expert at this, but
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, new onset AFib. These are patients that I believe these are patients that never had a history of AFib.
and weren't. Well, that's what I think we've been toying with. What exactly does that mean? I think that's
Yeah,
what
but I
Sherry's
think
getting at.
I think there was a notification that IQVIA posted. And let's see if we can find it. Hold on.
Because doesn't it have to do something with patients not in AFib at the time of OR entry too, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that was something different that I don't think is currently being reported out in the IQVIA platform. Hold on one second. Let's see if we can find it. I can't remember when we made that change. It wasn't a year. It wasn't prior to this. I don't even know where the old ones went. Let me check into that, Sherry. I think I have more information on it somewhere. I just have to dig, and I don't want to take up everybody's time to do that. Do you mind sending me an email so I don't forget? If you are able to complete the follow-up after the harvest and upload with the next, will the data be used? With the next harvest, it will be used, Hannah. The only follow-up you should have to collect after the harvest close may be readmission. And deep Melinda, sternal infection, that's 30 days.
Yep, 30 days post-op.
post-op. So the only one is the readmission, which is the 30 days post-discharge.
Yeah, sometimes you don't have enough time to figure that out. You just
Yeah,
have to
and
leave
that-
it blank and then update it when you
Yeah,
have the
that's-
information.
Okay, what is the best way to learn to read the reports and understands exclusions if you are new? Join the webinars. Oh, go ahead, Jennifer. Take the answer. Jenny, go ahead. Is she still on? Okay, what is the best way to learn to read the reports and understand exclusions if you are new? Join the webinars or ask questions. You could send the questions into Melinda. She'll reach out to me if it's something she doesn't know off the top of her head, but really the previous webinars are probably the best way. Also, look at the resources that we have for data managers in the adult cardiac section. Starting with probably the
NQF endorsed measures would probably be a really good place to start, just so you understand that.
yeah, that's helpful. And then there's a new data manager webinar also on the
Right.
adult cardiac YouTube channel where Melinda goes over that. We actually have one coming up too, Melinda.
Do
Did you
we?
know that?
No, I did
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, we sure do.
You have to tell me that date, so I'm ready.
Yeah, I missed that too. Hold on, everybody. Let me find it and
Or just send it to me. So
I'll send it to you.
Gosh, I
send it
hope
to
it's
you.
not like next week or something.
No, it's not. It's not. Can we have direct access and edit the hospital's contact list and send us setting forms for every time we made some changes? No, we have to monitor it some way and make sure that the changes are being entered in correctly, because there's different fields that need to be entered in by the STS staff to make sure we track everybody correctly. I am very interested in the new data manager webinar. So on the ACSD live webinars YouTube.
Last one, I just found it today because I was giving
It
it to
has to be
somebody.
in June. Our last
Yeah.
one was June 9th of 2022. So we do these yearly before AQO. So a month or two within a quarter before AQO. The last one that we did was this ACSD new data manager webinar on June 9th, 2022. And there's a lot of great information in here. It goes over everything on the website, all the different resources. So that's a great place. And then the next one, do you see it on your calendar, Melinda?
Oh, I haven't even looked. Gosh, see, I'm sitting here just.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you saw it in June. Hold on one second.
No, I'll look. My calendar.
I got it. It's Thursday, June 8th. So almost 1 month to the
June
date.
8th.
Yeah, Thursday, June 8th.
All right. Thank
We
you.
might be we'll probably be canceling. Oh, so maybe we'll be canceling our monthly webinar then for June. Oh, Lord. We'll talk about it and we'll give you an update on what we're going to do, because we have a monthly webinar scheduled on Wednesday and a new data manager webinar scheduled on Thursday. We may do both. So
That's fine. I mean, I'm ready for
yeah.
the one on.
Yeah, we need to do that because
Wednesday.
that's on the risk model factor.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm ready for that one already.
All right. Very good. And I think that's all.
So I don't have it on the calendar. Okay.
Let me check it out.
I don't have
All
that
right.
on my calendar. So just send it over to me.
I have,
The new data
okay, hold
manager.
on. Melinda Offer, you're on there, but you know what? It's at your old email.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
All right, I'll get that over to you.
Thank you for orienting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I saw that and I'm like, oh, I know we hadn't talked about that. Okay, I think we're good. Everybody happy to go into Thursday, Friday Eve? Yay. Okay, thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Jenny, Leanne, and Emily. And thanks everybody for hanging out with us a little bit longer than we normally do.